And somehow, just like that, it is Monday. I wouldn't know. I worked right through the weekend. It's gone mad, absolutely mad. Anyway, hope you're all okay. I'm what's left of Russ Kane. This is the Midday Show. It's Monday the something or other. What is it? 31st. Double whammy guests, huge guests. You know her. You love her. You'd be crackers to miss her. We're putting on the Ritz.
Hi, Russ.
Change your hair.
Oh, it's just bouncier today.
Oh, what have you done to your hair? This is the big, important psychological questions we need to ask.
Just bounced it. I've bounced it.
What, you're like an advert today. You're like you're like Claudia. Fantastic. Introduce your buddy, and then we can all get going. Go on. Introduce your pal.
Well, she's my co-host of the Therapy Floor podcast. One of my best
friends. Say that again slowly. At the what podcast?
The Therapy Floor podcast.
Oh, Therapy Floor podcast. Yes, right. Okay.
Which we'll get into.
Yeah, right. Okay. And she is?
Where is she? She's one of my best friends.
No, give me. She's your best friend.
We trained together. We're two psychologists. She was a bridesmaid in my wedding. Oh. And we don't always agree on things.
She didn't want you to marry that guy. That's what I heard. It's Vicky. Hello, Vicky. How are you?
I'm really good.
No, Vicky, all I can say is what I heard. You know, I heard some things. Okay. Yeah,
Vicky, you're gonna have words.
I heard some things. How are you? Welcome to the show, Vicky.
Thank you, Russ. It's lovely to be here.
Well, you say that.
Excuse me, can you stop hogging the lovely ladies, Russ?
Well, it would be nice if you were there. I didn't see you. Hello, Neil Long, all the way from Longland. Anyway, we've got double whammy, double the pleasure, double your fun with double mint.
So I see. Good afternoon, Dr. Ritz. Good afternoon, Vicky.
Good afternoon. You've got two doctors in the house today.
Well, thank God for that, because I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, doctors on the left, jokers on the right, and there are the listeners.
Stuck in the middle with you, Neil Long. Right. So tell us about your podcast. Come on, Vicky, you start.
Okay, so we have a podcast called The Therapy Floor, and we answer people's dilemmas, and we give people an insight into what psychologists may be thinking, how they may be processing things in the therapy room, but you get to see it live. Well, not live because it's recorded, but you get to see us kind of like show our workings out. And we talk about things from our different perspectives, our different training. And we have some really juicy dilemmas sometimes, some really heartfelt ones, some serious ones. It's all in the mix.
Oh, fantastic. Now, when you say, I'm very intrigued, when you say you get to you're interpreting what the therapist might be thinking, have I got that right, or am I screwing that up?
No, kind of along the same lines. So when you go to therapy, your therapist will be listening to some of the things you're talking about, and they'll be processing things in their mind. They'll be thinking about some of the theories they've been taught. They'll be thinking about different, they'll be analyzing different scenarios and different situations in their mind, but they may not necessarily tell you everything that they're thinking. But you get to see everything that we're thinking because we just basically say it out loud to each other.
That's really I've never heard anything like that.
I'm trying to process that and I'm struggling.
Okay,
I really am struggling.
Imagine you've come to the therapy floor. Imagine you've come to therapy, or you've gone to therapy. You're talking, and your psychologist or your therapist, they might say a couple of sentences.
Okay.
What we talk about on the podcast is how we come up with those questions that we are asking you. What is our thinking going on behind why we're asking you that? Why is that question important? So it's often like, what are we thinking, but we're not saying.
Right.
That's really interesting because I've never heard anything like that before. I've never heard a notion like that before. And it is really interesting because people are fascinated by these subjects. I mean, people in the therapy chair, so to speak, and people who are interested in therapy and the workings of this in general, I would imagine. That's
it. It's the workings out. Vicky once described it as like doing maths in GCSE maths. Show your workings out.
Do you know?
I hated that.
You beat me to it. You beat me to it. We were all taught that at school, weren't we? We all taught that at school. Always show your workings out, and I could never be bothered.
First of all, I couldn't be asked, and secondly, I was guessing. So who the hell, By the way, I'm going to return the compliment, and I would love you too, if we can ever fix a date, Dr. Ritz, to come to my own podcast, which is quite separate from this, called Walk the Talk, The Hero's Journey with myself and Mark Collin, because I think it would be absolutely fascinating getting you together with Mark, who is a therapist, so to speak. So I think that will be really good. Now, the important question that everybody around the world wants to know is, what type of bride did Dr. Ritz make?
Can I be honest?
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. My Wi-Fi just cut out. I didn't even hear the question. What was the question?
Dr. Ritz, we're talking about you, not to you at this point. So I'm talking to Vicky.
And just to explain what we're doing, we're showing the workings out. We're showing how we're
showing the workings.
In this case, which to ask a slightly awkward question to get more listeners.
The question. Well, you see, this is what I worry about therapists. You think they're sitting there listening, and they're thinking, do I cook spaghetti tonight? Have I got enough kitchen roll? Have I got to go to Tesco? That's what they're thinking.
No, it's
they're not even listening. You're just sitting there moaning for an hour. Listen, so the question was, Dr. Ritz, what kind of bride were you? And I'm asking your brides. I'm asking.
We're going there. Okay.
Yeah, Vic, we're asking Vicky the big questions here.
And I said, Ritz, can I be honest?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
Ritz was actually okay. She wanted things in a particular way, I think. Which is okay. It's her big day. But she was very chill about it, actually.
That's not what I wanted to hear.
I'll be honest with boring, you. Isn't it?
I'll be honest with you, Vicky. I was really hoping for some juicy gossip, but frankly, that's
she did not give you juicy at all. I'll even give you juicy.
Oh, okay. Go on, then.
Okay. Neil and I are up for that.
I had 4 weddings.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry. What? This was greedy.
To the same person.
Yeah. There were
just in case he did a runner. In case he did a runner. So, why?
That's a good way to put it. 4 ceremonies, because I'm Hindu, my husband is Sikh, right. And then we had the civil wedding. But where I wanted the civil wedding, it could not be legally officiated, so then we had to go and do it at a legal place too.
Yes, and by the way, as a fully trained official and professional celebrant, can I just point out one thing? It is not a registry office; it is a register office.
Oh,
and if
really?
you hear any ever say it's a registry office, they haven't been properly trained. It is a register office where weddings are registered. And it's registered by a registrar.
And don't ever forget it, girls, because we're going to be asking questions later.
Yeah. So we want to see workings out, and we bring it a whole way
and your
back
workings out, and how you got to that conclusion.
Yeah, well, there you go. Right. So, and how long have you two been working together professionally?
Oh gosh, on and off for a while, isn't it, Ritz?
Yeah. So we trained together, didn't we? We trained together first.
Yeah. So we met in 2012.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we met in 2012. We did our doctorate together, and I think in 2020 we started doing some work together, clinically.
Yeah.
We were both doing some consultancy work and some executive coaching for in the finance sector, and we've been doing our podcast now for about, I want to say it's just over a year, isn't it, Ritz?
Yeah, so we started filming in 20, oh gosh, I can't do maths. I'm going to show my workings out in a minute. 2022.
See, Neil, we're not so stupid.
Autumn 2022 we started filming, and then we released autumn 2023 we started filming, and then we released our first episode in January 2024. So about a year ago.
How's it going?
It's going good.
Yeah.
They say that anyone has a podcast now. It's become so popular, and podcasts are really, really good because not only can you can do deep dives into things, but it's also a great showcase for what you do. It just presents you to the world in a really, really good way. A little side hustle of mine is getting people's podcasts online for them and doing the editing and all that sort of stuff. And I say to all my clients, it's a really good thing to do, because it's every episode is essentially a showcase for you for what you do.
Yeah, it's quite nice to be a bit more playful as well. We may not necessarily be this way in the therapy room with clients, but with each other, we can have a bit of a laugh. We can be a bit vulnerable as well.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's just really nice just to be ourselves.
And people love that. It brings a very human touch to it. It's there's a difference between I've kind of lost my train of thought. It can be too. Sometimes it needs. How can I say? It needs to be a balance. It needs to be professional, but sometimes it can be so kind of professional, so kind of perfect. You lose the kind of human touch. It's that balance between the two where the sweet spot is, I think, personally.
And also, it's nice to have long form. I think it gives you more room to have more of a long form format, which podcasts can do, and it can go anywhere. What are some of your favorite moments that you covered in the Therapy Floor podcast? Something easy to say, by the way. I'm telling you now. Therapy Floor podcast. Do you know why? I'll tell you why. Speaking professionally, it's because your mouth gets into the wrong position with the words. It's the Therapy Floor podcast. It's actually the formation of your mouth. Trying to say that. That's why it's tricky. So what's some of the most interesting things you've covered?
Ritz, do you want to take that?
You know, I don't think anyone's ever asked us that before. Like, what's the most?
That's why we get the big bucks.
Yeah,
That's why we get the big bucks.
I'm just thinking about what stands out for me.
I think I know one.
Okay,
come on, Vicky, lay it on us.
Because I had a few people comment afterwards and said, "Oh my goodness, I just didn't know how you were going to answer that topic." And so we had someone say to us, "I'm in a long-term relationship. I'm having an affair, and I don't know who to choose."
Oh yes, it was that one.
Oh, take them both. Yeah. Be greedy. I say.
Yeah, that was a really, really juicy one, a really good one.
And what did you say?
How do you answer that?
Yes, Neil.
What do you mean, me?
Nothing. I'm just saying. I'm just being inclusive. That's all.
Are you casting nasturtiums?
I'm casting geraniums. So what's the answer to that fabulous question? I love that one.
Well, I mean, this has actually come up in the therapy room for me as well. We necessarily can't help you choose who you want to pick, but we can talk about.
You see, I'd be useless doing your job, you two, because I'd say, I tell you what, 2 nights consecutively next week, we'll all go out to dinner. Bring the first one, dinner 1, bring the second one to dinner 2, and I'll let you know.
Because that's really going to work. Because that's going to work out so well, Russ. Yeah. I mean, what could possibly go wrong at any point there?
That's why I'm a top therapist, fully trained on the back of a cornflakes pack. So what did you suggest? Nothing.
Well, before we make any suggestions, we kind of go inwards a little bit, and we help them to understand, I mean, how they ended up in this predicament in the first place. What was it that they were seeking? What was it that they weren't receiving from one partner versus the other? We get them to think about, okay, what's the dilemma within you as an individual? What's leading to this sense of discontent? And also we're a bit controversial as well, and we also put it out there that maybe you don't need to choose.
I'm liking your style, Vicky. You're talking my language. I'm going to be honest with you.
I mean, there are consequences. There are pros and cons to each, right? And for each decision that you make.
Yeah. 2 lots of Christmas presents.
Because some people do have relationships with more than one person. What do they call it? Polyamory. That's the word, isn't it?
Or open relationships.
They just call it greedy bastard is what they call it.
No, not necessarily.
Yes, they do. That's what they do. Who's got the dog?
Oh, no. Can you hear her?
Yeah, I love it. It's lovely.
That's all right. No, we welcome animals on this show. We welcome animals on this show.
Oh, okay.
What have you got, Vicky?
I've got a miniature golden doodle.
A miniature golden doodle. Oh, sounds gorgeous.
She's gorgeous.
And what if just going to throw a little spanner in the works here? What if their discontent wasn't anything to do with either relationship? What then?
That's usually the case. So what we tend to find is
because people tend to
often
blame
when people want an answer and they're thinking, right, the answer is out of me, so I have to kind of like this comment that we've just got here from Fat Scotty, that they need to fix something outside of them. I either need to choose the lover or the person that I'm in this committed relationship with. And as Vicky was saying, we often try and move away from that. Actually, it's not about choosing right now. It's figuring out what's actually going on in you, what's led you to this moment where you were in a committed relationship, you were essentially probably dissatisfied, and there was probably likely to be a breakdown of communication, that you weren't able to communicate your dissatisfaction in an open and honest way. And so you went to look for whatever it was that was maybe missing in other areas. And the thing is, it could be, sometimes it's not even just, another person. Sometimes we even see it with like hobbies. Like once there was a dilemma, wasn't there, where somebody actually said they were on the other side of it and they were like, I prefer my golfing friends to my wife. And again, it's like something is lacking inside of you and you found another place to get this excitement from, whether that's a hobby, a person, a pet, work. Sometimes, people joke around about their work, wife and husband.
Because it's the oldest saw in the book, isn't it? Oh, the stereotype of the man drinking his sorrows away, talking to the barmaid that, listen, my wife just doesn't understand me. But yeah. But what you're saying, that makes that a bit kind of futile, really, doesn't it? Because that's not that, getting what you need somewhere else is not the answer. Or again, outside of yourself is not the answer. It's fixing yourself first, right? Always.
Yeah, or it's about understanding, right, so what is it that I'm not getting from my wife? And have I found a way to communicate that? Have I found a way to communicate that? That isn't blaming, that isn't about saying you need to do this or I have to. It's about actually collaboration. And then sometimes people might say, I'm just so over it, I don't even want to collaborate anymore. Well, then that gives you your answer. Or sometimes people say, I'm actually really afraid to collaborate. I'm really afraid to get honest and say how I feel because I'm worried.
I think another mistake people make is they put all their eggs in one basket. I think some people think the relationship is everything in their life. But for me, and in my experience, I'm much more fulfilled having many different relationships with many different people. And I don't mean polyamory. I'm seeing someone and I'm exclusive with them, but I'm not. But I also have great friends, male and female. I've got my male friends. I've got my comedy friends, all sorts, and I get different fulfillment from different people. And I think everyone should do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, and not just different people, just different areas. We talked about this last week, didn't we, Vicky? Where we said, your relationship is just one part of the pie.
Yeah.
There's so much to unpack here. Right, let's deal with Scott. His real name is Scott Lyons, actually. Leaders, what's the biggest common misconception about therapists and therapy and what people think therapy is meant to fix?
You want to take that one, Vicky?
Yeah. By the way, I'm so sorry that my internet is really bad.
It's the dog. It's not you. It's the dog doing it. She's chewing through the lead. She's sitting in front of the router.
It's no problem. We can hear you perfectly, Vicky.
Yeah, we can hear you great, Vicky. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
You're fine. Yeah, you just freeze from time to time. So strike a good pose and keep still, and you'll be fine.
Yeah. Okay.
I really like this.
That's it. Do that, Vicky. You'll be
fine. So I think people think that therapy is only useful if there's something wrong with you, maybe if you have a particular mental health condition. And sometimes people just don't realize that you can come to therapy just to understand yourself more. You may not be necessarily going through a difficult time. You may even be having a good time. Yeah. But just if you want to understand yourself a bit more, if you want to understand something about your relationship dynamics, why you think in the way you think, why you behave the way you do. I think also some people feel like therapists can read your mind, which is crazy. I still get asked that. Can you actually? Do you actually know what I'm thinking? No, I don't.
Yeah.
Well, really? I think you're a mesmerist or something. That's really, wow.
I mean, I'd be a billionaire if I could,
well, you
read
would.
people's mind.
You would, and also you'd be bitterly disappointed.
Yeah.
Because you think they're a genius and they're just sitting there going, nothing going through my head at all.
I love that idea that it's not necessarily if something's wrong. That's quite a new notion to me. But if everyone had, particularly as we've seen, like communities break down over the years and all that sort of thing. So if people had a regular place they could go and share their thoughts, share their feelings with someone that's subjective, not involved with that person, a dispassionate observer, a caring but dispassionate observer. I think that's really helpful. I think that would really improve mental health meteorically.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And,
Vicky, can I add a caveat? I'm sorry to jump in here. I'm going to take a slightly opposing view to that. Theoretically, it's a lovely idea. It's like if you had a car, you have it regularly serviced, unless you're an idiot, and it'll stop problems happening later on down the line, which can be expensive and disastrous. But with a human being, well, let me walk you through what I'm thinking, and then please come back. With a human being, if you're doing okay and you're happy and everything like that, if you start to pick at stuff, I wonder how soon it is before you get unraveled.
I think that's a really common fear of people going to therapy. And I'll be honest, I had that too before I went to therapy. Because as part of our training, Vicky and I had to be in therapy for like 3 years, I think, that. To, unpack our stuff. And I remember thinking, you know what, my life is pretty okay at the moment. I'm in a happy relationship. I've got onto this course. I'm, hopefully chasing the career that I really want. Life is good. I am terrified for what I might uncover about myself that I think I've dealt with already if I pick at it. A good therapist is not going to just let you unravel. A good therapist isn't like, right, you're coming to therapy, let me just push you right into the pond. Yeah. A good therapist, a good psychologist is about letting you take the lead, recognizing that you are the expert in your own life, and then gently, very, very gently presenting ideas to you that you might not be seeing, but in a way that is very gentle. We always call it like we dip your toe in the pond. And before we do that, we're always going to give you skills that's going to help you to regulate your emotions and come back to the present moment so that you can go on and live life in a way that is safe.
I'll tell you what put me off. The reason why I say this, I used to live and work in America. And back then, therapy was far more common than it was here. Here, it was pretty rare.
Fashionable even in America. Fashionable in America.
Well, it was the 70s. And it was deep therapy. What I couldn't get over...
California, by any chance?
No, not at all. New York.
Oh.
No, not California. New York. No, it wasn't the hippy-dippy crap. It was, someone was in proper deep therapy. But what I observed, and this was 76 onwards, was that the therapist or psychiatrist, or whatever they were, would completely deconstruct this person. So during the process of their therapy, they were an absolute gibbering wreck. A wreck. I've never seen anything like it. So when the therapist went on holiday, right, they'd go to Fire Island or Long Island or wherever it was, the guy at the next desk to me, lovely guy, was in pieces. He couldn't function at all. And I thought,
that's not great.
I am never, ever, ever letting anyone do that.
No, I don't want to be that. Much more. It's seeing the person as, if you like, I'm going back to my NLP training, which is see the person as whole, complete, just using a set of strategies that may not work and give them a bigger smorgasbord to choose from, but always hold the integrity of that person and always give them a way of coming back to the present moment, exactly like you say. And you don't have to smash people to pieces to bring them back together. Of course not.
No, that's quite dangerous.
It was horrible. Vicky, you're absolutely right. It was. I didn't like. I was an observer, if you like.
So we can understand where those fears come from.
Absolutely shocking.
But that to me is not remotely therapeutic at all.
I think it also depends on the person's qualification. I'll just put this there. I think at the moment there's been a bit of a boom on mental health. I'm talking about this from the UK. And I think a lot of people are claiming to be experts that aren't. And so
they're not experts at
are
all.
Getting unraveled in a dangerous way. And then unfortunately, they do end up, in our therapy room or another psychologist's therapy room where this is happening. And, we are very much talking about this within our community as psychologists, that it's so scary what is going on in the world.
It's disgraceful. One of the things I say to both of you, and Neil and I talk about this a lot on the Midday show, is that it's like the Wild West out there. It's, you think, oh, this is all governed. There's a governing body, and it's like the BMA and all the rest of it. It's not at all. And unlike yourselves, who've gone through the whole process correctly, you've got these twerps setting themselves up as or even life coaches. And I always think a life coach is someone who's too lazy to go into PR or isn't good enough. And they just say, well, I'm a life coach now. It's nonsense. There's a few good ones and a lot of absolute charlatans.
It's really important to assess your own motivations for even wanting to be a therapist. When we were going for our training, that was the first question they asked me. We had a panel of what they called lecturers and therapists, and they asked us, why are you doing this? What's your reason for this?
And what was your reason, Vicky? Seriously, what was your reason?
Well, I do love to help people. But they also asked me, they said, what are some of your blind spots? And do you think your need for helping people is actually to help yourself?
Do you know?
That's really valid.
A very, very good question.
Do you know?
Yeah,
Vicky,
because there's a concept. Sorry, go ahead, Neil.
No, after you.
No, because we got introduced to this concept, didn't we, Vicky, afterwards in our first year of training, very soon after we started, which is called the wounded healer. So people will often come to the profession because they have these wounds themselves, and they're trying to, rather than work on themselves, they try to repair the wounds by helping other people.
That's exactly what I was going to say. When I did the NLP course, there was so much of that. There was a lot of very broken people, exactly like you say, trying to fix themselves by fixing other people. And heads up, spoiler, it doesn't work.
No.
However, hang on. I hear what you're saying. I'm going to argue with three people because life's too short and I got a busy day. But I hear what you're saying, Longie. But one of the great things that I found is satisfaction and happiness through service to others.
I'm not saying don't.
No, let me finish. Through service to others. It's not going to mend me. I get that. Of course it's not. That's a completely different thing. But you can find enormous.
Agreed. But you're talking about two different things there, dude.
Well,
you can serve other
Mr.
people.
Dude to you.
Sorry, Mr. Dude.
Mr. Dude.
You can still be of service to other people, and then there's healing other people. They're two different things. They're not the same thing, or they can be.
I think one is acts of kindness, Russ. I think one is acts of kindness. What you were talking about. Exclusive. Yeah, and then I don't necessarily see that my job is to be kind. That's not my job.
No, I don't think it's acts of kindness at all.
It really was, though. It was writ big, and I could sense it. And there was all these very wounded people. Yes, of course, they wanted to be of service to others, but they were going about it the wrong way by trying to fix other people rather than going through the process, healing themselves. And I'm familiar with the concept of the wounded healer, but if it's two wounded people in the room, it's kind of the psychological blind leading the blind, isn't it?
Precisely. All right, I see what you're saying, Neil. Okay, I see what you're saying.
That's all right.
Okay.
Mr. Neil, to you.
I wasn't apologising. I was just saying I see what you're saying.
Should we do a couple of comments?
We can do, but I want to ask, because we asked Vicky, so we've got to ask Dr. Ritz, why did you become a therapist?
So I think initially, I did go into it, or thought I wanted to go into it for that reason. And I remember once I was in holiday with my family in a place called Boracay, and I was in the ocean, and I was just like talking to the person next to me. You know how like you're just bobbing in the sea and you just might have a chat with the person next to you.
As you do.
Yeah, you do.
And then they say, we're going to need a bigger boat. And then you think, oh, Christ. Right, okay.
And I asked her, what do you do? And this must have been like 20 maybe years ago or so. No, I was, maybe about like less than that, maybe like 17 years ago or something, but quite a while ago. And I asked her, what do you do? And she said, I'm a psychologist. And at that time I was like, oh my God, psychologists are such a rare breed. Like I've got like my hands on like some gold dust here. Wow. And I said, that's something I really want to be. And she said, oh, tell me about, what are your wounds? And I remember being really taken aback by that. So that was the first time that concept had really been put forward to me, that, we all have these wounds that we have, and that can lead someone to want to go into this profession. And I think for me, it was losing my father at a really young age. But then when I was applying for the course and I was on the interview, I said to them, for me, it's really about understanding why people do the things they do, or trying to understand that, make sense of it. Like from doing I did a previous diploma before doing that, or a skills course, I remember. And I remember in that skills course, it was you almost have to unravel yourself in a very, very slow and gentle way as you start to understand yourself better and put yourself back, but recognizing that when you put yourself back, you're not fixed. You're not fixating yourself in time, that you are just relating to your experience in that moment, and life is fluid and you need to be fluid and flexible.
And we're all growing, evolving beings as well. It's not healthy to get fixed in time. That's you see people do that. I remember my mum when my dad died, and she aged overnight. Before that, she was flexible, fluid.
My mum too.
Thinking about redecorating the house, being, and then my dad died, and bang, she became old overnight, and it wasn't healthy. So,
ladies, as therapists, where you've had your therapy yourselves, do you question your therapist's methods against how you would deal with someone experiencing? That's a really good question.
I question your Scottish accent, Russ, to be honest with you.
Shut up, he was Polish, for Christ's sake. I've had a weekend, the week ahead is even worse. Right, so this is a really, really interesting thing, because as a writer, if I'm reading a book, I'm automatically dissecting it and going, oh, well, I wouldn't have done that. Oh, that's really good. I wouldn't have thought of that. No, that's terrible. Same with movies. So I wonder, when you were having your own therapy, it's a terrific question from Scott Lyons.
That's a great question.
It is a really good one.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that I didn't necessarily love my therapist when I was training. And so for me, she was an example of what I didn't want to do. I mean, she wasn't terrible, but I think I related more to therapists that I worked alongside, and I could see how they worked. I related to therapists more who were very authentic. They were able to kind of show parts of themselves without being over familiar.
Yes.
So they struck a balance between being professional but also relatable. I knew where I stood with them. I knew the kind of relationship, or clients that worked with these sets of therapists, they knew the impacts they had on the therapist. They knew that they mattered to them.
That was exactly like the wonderful therapist I always shout her out on this show, Rosie Whetstone. And she was exactly that, super professional, but very approachable and relatable as well. And she would share just enough. So you put it beautifully.
Wow.
Yeah, just enough. So I could feel comfortable thinking, oh, she's just like me. You know what I mean?
I had the opposite. I had quite the opposite. Nothing. I couldn't tell you anything. Not a thing. Worked.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you anything about the person that I saw. Couldn't tell you anything. Nothing.
Oh, so you had quite the blank screen, would you say?
Complete. Yeah.
But it was very interesting. These comments.
Yes. Let's do this one.
Colin Etches, who also says, great show so far, guys. Thank you very much indeed for that. And a quick shout out for Colin. He's a comedian, and today he's got himself a radio gig on a station in the Midlands. And well done on that. I think we can give it a shout.
Hi from the Midlands.
It's Burton FM, isn't it? Or Burton Radio. He's doing 2 to 5.
I used to live in Burton.
Huh?
I used to live in Burton.
Did you?
I used to get my suits from there. Moving on. Go on.
We'll leave the comedy to Colin, I think, Russ. So good luck with your show, Colin. I'll be tuned in this afternoon. Is there a link between the rise and the need for therapy, do you think, and the breakdown of our communities? If the answer is yes, what are your thoughts on societal care to address the issue at the root rather than, good question, waiting till society has broken everyone? He's a philosopher as well as a comedian.
I love this question. I'm so big on communities.
I was just going to say, this is a Vicky question.
Yeah, I love it. I've actually just started a women's therapy group. It's a free therapy group, and we meet on a Saturday online. And I've got 5 lovely, lovely young ladies, and it's just such an honor to do this therapy group with them because they're being vulnerable with each other, they're supporting one another, they're challenging one another, and I think that's what we need. We need communities. We need to know that we belong to people and people belong to us, and that we can hold each other accountable. So I don't know necessarily if the rise in need for therapy is solely down to the breakdown of our communities. I think there's a lot going on in the world that is probably be due to the breakdown of our communities. But yeah, I think that we do need to have things that are like at the grass levels, to really reestablish a sense of we've got each other's back.
But we don't.
Yeah.
We haven't. We don't at all.
But we should.
Oh, we should. Yeah, I should be living in Monaco, but I'm not. So here's the thing, right? I think it's there's so much to unpack with this question. Number one, proper families. Don't leave everything to the state. Don't leave everything to the school. It's not always somebody else's fault. You're going to have kids, bring them up properly. Be a decent parent. Starts there. That's where it starts.
But how can you do that if you don't have other parents or people who are ahead?
Because carers need care too. It's the
village. It's the village, isn't it?
Yeah, and we need that sense of, I don't want to get all deep and spiritual, but interconnection. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's all very separate at the moment. It's all very categorized, all very logical, and that doesn't always serve sometimes, but it doesn't always. Illogical. It doesn't always serve.
To it.
Sorry?
No, it's illogical. I don't think it's logical at all. I think it's chaotic out there. I genuinely think we are.
Yeah, but we've given. What I'm trying to say is we've given so much credence. I think Einstein said this as well, so I'm fairly comfortable in quoting this, that we've given credence to the logical mind part of us, and we've made it the master rather than the servant, when we need to be more complete in our thinking, if you know what I mean, rather than just logic alone.
I think I get what you're saying there, because the world doesn't necessarily. I think there's maybe the fantasy that the world should work on logic. There's the fantasy of that, like if you just parent correctly, then you'll raise good kids, and then you're passing down to society. I just don't think that's necessarily the case. There's so many nuances to being a human being and to life. And when it comes to that parenting aspect, I really do believe, as a professional and as a parent, it takes a village. That quote's just not come from anywhere. If you go back to tribal times, it literally takes a village to become a parent is literally throwing your world upside down. And so when you're feeling maybe so lost at it, when you're second guessing yourself, when you have no idea what you're doing and you don't have a community to turn to, it can feel very isolating. It can feel like you're doing the wrong thing. And then that just leads into a very vicious cycle, because if your child is then experiencing you as anxious, unsure about themselves, scared, they're going to absorb that. Your child is a sponge. They're literally going to absorb that. And so that's how that gets passed down through the generations.
And your child isn't your friend. Your child isn't your friend. Your child is your child, and you are their parent. You can have a wonderful relationship with them, but when they're growing up, you do not need to be their friend, which is the American model. It's a huge mistake because the boundaries get completely blurred.
100%. I'm all for kind but firm boundaries.
Here's one. I found therapists that I didn't like more effective, says Colin. I figured if I didn't like them, they were getting under my skin and doing their job properly. I don't know. I'm not sure what I make of that.
Weird.
Kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense.
In a perverse sort of way.
I think there's some reasoning for that because, you know, in therapy, sometimes we like to think about what does this client need? What kind of therapist do they need? And sometimes they may need a therapist who is actually quite triggering for them. Let's just say they have issues with like male figures in their life. Maybe they actually do need a male therapist that can speak to their particular set of difficulties. So I can see there is some merit in that reasoning.
Mm-hmm. This in from Scott Lyons. Ladies, what's your following Neil's brutal criticism of my genius Scottish accent? I shall speak as myself. Ladies, what are your views on mechanical or intervention therapy such as, electroshock and conversion? I'm not even sure what conversion therapy is, but
I do. I hate it.
Well, we'll let our. I have no idea what it is. I dread to think.
You won't like it.
It sounds horrible.
It is.
Okay.
I'll nail my colours to the mask on that one. I think conversion therapy is disgusting. Electroshock, I don't know, but I'll let the ladies.
Oh, I do know electroshock. Gus.
Well, electric shock kind of reboots, and it seems rather primitive now, but it did seem to have some results on depression, didn't it? Electroconvulsive therapy.
Well, back in the day, it was a long time
back in the day,
ago.
Yeah.
Pretty
I mean, they
last
still use
resort.
it now. They still use it.
Do they?
Yeah, but it is pretty much a last resort. I mean, I'm not a fan of either. It's not my bag. It's not my cup of tea.
It's funny how we look back on our lives. I had an auntie a million years ago, and she was having electroshock therapy. It did nothing. Did absolutely nothing. It turned her into a bloody zombie, my auntie.
If I'm right about what Scotty means by conversion therapy, this is the idea normally practiced by some of the more conservative religious groups. It's come from America, and that's putting it kindly, where they can kind of stop a gay person being gay by praying it out of them.
That'll work. That works every time.
I personally think that's absolutely one of the most horrendous things people have come up with personally.
Mental, isn't it?
Yeah. If that's what you mean, Scotty.
That's what I thought it meant. I thought
that's what I thought it was as well. I mean, it just goes against our training completely.
Yeah. It goes against common sense. It goes against everything.
Goes against nature. Goes against nature as well. Now, I'm going to ask Dr. Ritz first, and then Vicky, you can jump on. Have you ever had a client and be as vague as you like when you think, I am not going to be able to help this person because our dynamic is simply just not going to work?
So do you know what's interesting? I've had different sides of the coin with that. I've had it where I thought, I'm just not sure. You know what? I'm just not sure about this client and me and whether we're going to have the relationship. Because the way I work, I think the way Vicky works as well, it's all about the therapeutic relationship. You have to be able to have a relationship with that person to be able to get them to open up and to trust, to then have a relationship with themselves. And what's interesting is the ones that I think I maybe made a judgment about is the ones that we've had the best relationship. But then there have also been clients, 100%, where it's been more a case of what they were bringing was maybe too similar to personal circumstances that were going on in my life, or of somebody I knew. And so if I was feeling a particular way to that person in my life, I knew I just wasn't going to be seeing that person in front of me in the therapy room through fair eyes. And so I think there's been 2 occasions where I have said to clients when they've come for the assessment, I am not the right person who is able to help you right now because of something going on in my life. And I will either see them and we call it holding, until they find a therapist they can work with, alongside helping them to find something. So that's definitely happened for me.
Interesting. And that's very honest of you. Very honest as well.
Very honest and beautifully vulnerable as well. Like you mentioned vulnerability, and that's great. You know what I mean? Because we need that because that build up the rapport and the trust. Because
I go into these sessions as a human. I don't go in as somebody who can just, treat anybody. I think especially working privately now, I've got more say over that, whereas maybe in the NHS you just have to double down and get on with it. But especially as like a private psychologist now, I just think it makes me a better therapist as well.
I agree. Scotty says, yes, I'm against all forms of electroshock conversion therapy. You can't control or delete someone if they're a certain way. I couldn't agree more. I don't know if you mean they're using electroshocks to try and convert people, or whether you're separating those two things. But I'm not quite sure what you mean by that one. But yeah.
Who's doing the washing up?
Oh, sorry. Can you hear her? Mum, they can hear you.
Mum.
Hi, Mum.
Hey, Mum.
They can hear you washing up.
Ease it up with the fairy liquid there.
She thought she could sneak in and quietly.
And just say to her,
Hey, Mum, what's Mum's name? Let's give her a shout out. What's her name?
Hi, Auntie.
My mum's name is Happiness. She can't hear you because I've got my headphones
Happiness.
Happiness, what a beautiful name. Hello, Happiness.
Happiness, the greatest mum that I possess. I thank the Lord that I've been blessed with more than my share of my mum's happiness.
Thank God she can't hear. Please don't play that back to her, whatever you do.
This is the best name ever.
It is the best name ever.
This is just great.
That's what I thought you meant,
fantastic.
Scotty, while I've got you, do you want to present with me on Wednesday, Scotty, on the Wednesday midday show? Just throwing that out there. You were saying.
I was going to say, I just second everything Ritz said about, working with clients that you feel like you're not really going to gel with. But I also wanted to answer Scotty's question about pet therapy. So I actually used to bring Remy into the therapy room with me when I was seeing patients or clients in person, and she would just curl up on their lap. And, they just stroke her, and it really helped to,
It's incredibly calming, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a lot of research into animal-assisted therapy. It can do wonders, and especially I think equine is a big one as well.
Oh yeah.
Not if you've got something on the 3:30 at Kempton Park and it falls at the first fence.
That's not equine therapy, Russ.
It is to me. You see, 200 quid going down the toilet. Right.
I like the question about smartphones.
I think
it's a great question, because that is really about accountability. Mental health is not helped by smartphone users. I agree on that. I don't think it is. I think it's become such an easy escape for people to lean into.
Yeah, there's a word for it now, doom scrolling, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And then also, again, it's, if we're coming back to kids learn by what we do, not what we say. So if you've got your phone in your hand and you're going, get off your phone, go and play outside. Ridiculous. But actually, you're not joining them to play outside because you're still on your phone. Yeah. What are we actually teaching? So I think it's so easy to say, cut the phones with kids. I do agree, cut the phones with kids, but start with yourself first. Cut your own phone usage. And it's just such an easy habit to slip into. I'm not saying that I have the right answers and I'm doing it correctly. I hate my phone. I actually hate it now. I wish I didn't have to be on it. I do like my phone, and I need it because it's a tool, because I've got so many things on there, but it is only a tool. Again, it's a servant, not a master. I remember once, ladies, when it was lockdown and I was broadcasting these virtual parties, and there was like a little community of people that were talking on their phones night after night while I was DJing and playing music. Then when it was rule of 6, I invited some of those around my house into the room I'm in at the moment, which is not massive. It's
not small. It's a lovely room.
Average size conservatory. And they all sat there and they met each other in person for the first time. Yeah. And they didn't say a word to each other. They sat there and talked to each other on their phones. Yeah. And I'm not making that up. And I was
I believe that totally. Of course it is. Of course it is.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's also not.
Sorry, Vic, on the plus side, and I've noticed this more and more. There's a lot of crap on social media and a lot of toxic waste and revolting people, but there's also some absolutely lovely people. And you do get people I've never met and I never will meet, but you get to know about their lives, and you actually get in a strange way to care what's going on. So when they go into hospital, you wish them well and things like that. I've never met them. I'm never going to meet them. I don't, but that's a nice side. I think that is what you were saying about, community.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that's social media rather than anti-social media.
Beautifully said. That's Longie, you're on fire today, boy. That's really good. But it is nice when that's what it was designed for. Not, of course, now it's just revolting, but especially X and the rest of it. It's horrible.
You were saying?
I was going to say, it's also not great that we can open up our phones and we can just see what everyone is up to. We didn't necessarily have access to, like where someone's going to go on holiday, or who's had the most fanciest proposal, or, who's received the best, I don't know, push present. We have so much access.
That's what present?
Push present.
What's that?
Oh, have you not heard of this?
You're making this up now.
I am not making this up.
You're just making this thing up. I'm going to ask Happiness. I'm going to ask Happiness and the dog.
Right, come on, I need to know what this is now, because I've not heard of that either.
Okay, what do women push out?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, on a Friday, the recycling bins mostly. Although it's not
okay, I get where you're going. Yeah.
Yeah. So push presents, from your partner when you push out a baby.
Oh, I see. Oh,
I don't.
I never knew. I never knew it was called that.
Yeah.
Do you mean a baby gift, or do you mean you're in the delivery room? Darling, I know you're in agony, but look what I got you.
It depends when you want to give it.
Yeah, it could be before, it could be after.
Not during, not unless you want it rammed up your backside.
Exactly.
Yes. I think the danger of social media is that people think we only put the good bits on there, generally. So particularly if you're a young person, it's very easy to think everyone is having a wonderful time in the world, apart from me.
They're so much more successful than I am.
Exactly. And that's really inaccurate. When it's used for what it's supposed to be used, social media, I think it's a great thing. It can connect, and like Russ says, you can meet some wonderful people, but it's just being careful of the downside, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah, and I think it's very easy that when you're in a good mindset or have good mental health to say, what I'm consuming, I'm being intentional about it. But how often is that the case for people, right? How often is it that actually when you're not in a good mindset, are you more likely to go on social media, and then it just leads into this more vicious cycle? Or young people consuming social media, they haven't even developed their mindset yet. Right.
Yeah.
And what they're consuming is quite underlying. We know it's quite negative, but on the surface it looks harmless. I got on this football team, or my parents bought me this car, or I'm going on this holiday, and that's constantly thrown in your face. I think it can be quite damaging to people's self-worth.
Look no further than Andrew Tate. Look no further than Andrew Tate. People whose lives are pretty shitty, and they look at this guy who presents as having this I find it repulsive. I do. It out there. I find it repulsive. I find him repulsive. But look at this, and I'm going to spend half an hour deciding which of my £50,000 watches I'm going to, and all this crap. It's absolute garbage, and people buy it. People who don't have a proper life, they buy it. It's dangerous stuff.
I think that's what's scary, is these platforms can give people a platform to become role models.
Yeah.
But do we agree that that's a good role model?
There are some shocking people setting themselves up as I have to say, and people will go mad at me, but I really don't care. You look at the Kardashians. Have you ever met more vacuous, pointless people? And they are multi-millionaires.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they are enormously successful. And you think, for what? There's not one real thing here. But billions, not millions, billions of people follow them, follow everything that they do, and they've made untold fortunes through it. So on the one hand, I think that's really clever. As a marketeer, I think, wow, that's great. Bravo to you. And as a human being, I go, this is garbage. But there you go.
Well, I think we're all seeking deep down to be influenced, aren't we? But it's just who is influencing us, like Ritz was saying. Is it people online, or is it people, our neighbours, or, Sally down the road?
Do you think we're all seeking validation, do you?
I think we need to feel that we matter. Yeah, I do think that is a very human need.
I get that. I get that, but I don't judge. I've never judged it on material things. Material stuff is I've done all that, and it's irrelevant. I really don't care.
But then maybe if you hadn't done it, but I wonder if you hadn't done it, then is that something you would be seeking because it looks shiny and new? And it looks like the people that have it on the surface, they look really happy. Do you see what I mean? Because you've had it and you've maybe realised how empty it is.
Exactly, Dr. Ritz. I personally take a middle ground. I don't see why people shouldn't have these things, but there's no point.
No. They're lovely things to have if you want them.
It's be happy and all the be a complete human being first, and then enjoy these things rather than using that as a path to be happy. I think that's where people go wrong.
Look. Ultimately, and I'd love to know what you two think. Ultimately, all of this thing, it's stuff. It's stuff. It's just things, all right? They in themselves won't make you happy if inside you're not happy. They're nice to have. They're very nice to have, but they will not make you fundamentally happy.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's what I'm saying with that,
Yeah. What a fascinating conversation today.
It's great. What do we think about this?
Lovely to have you back, Dr. Ritz, and it's lovely to meet you as well. It's been...
my therapist put half a glass of water in front of me in my last visit. That's very clever. I hope it's not a joke. Was it a test or was it refreshment?
Oh, I don't know. Do you know what? I think depending on the time... I was going to say that you should just ask them, because depending on the type of therapist, they could actually be reading into it. They could be thinking, okay, let's see if he takes a sip of it. Why do you take a sip of it now and not,
Really? Would it not just be he's a bit thirsty? So I'm being serious. I'm not being facetious.
It could be. It depends what type of therapist they are, but you never know until you ask.
Blimey. So what?
Maybe that's the point. Maybe that's the point. I just wonder, I'm not going to make assumptions here, but for me, if I was listening to this, I would be like, oh, I wonder if this therapist can see that maybe this person will just go along and nod and maybe not speak up for themselves. So is it a potential test of, as you're saying, I've put in half a glass instead of a full glass, and is this an opportunity for this person to say, hey, can I have a full glass of water, please? Or why is it only a half glass today? And to just see then what comes out between the two of those people in the relationship, in that session. Wow. So that could be an aspect of it.
I would have never thought of that. That is brilliant. Yeah, why not?
I'd have just thought, oh, it's a glass of water. I'll have it if I'm a bit thirsty.
So that's it. When Vicky and I have been talking about we use the relationship in the room, that's how we would use it. So it can be lots of different things. For example, Vicky might want to give an example, but just off the top of my head, for me, it might be something like, oh, I've been noticing as we've been working together, if I ask you this type of question, you might ask how I'm doing first rather than take it for yourself to answer. You seem to want to take care of me before you take care of yourself. Is this a pattern that goes on in your life?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything is material for therapists.
Everything's material for a writer as well. Everything. Everything. The whole world just gives the whole time.
Russ, do you want to help us write our book?
I'd be thrilled, but I could see us having major rows because major fallings out. But, I like ghostwriting. Ghostwriting is fun. I mean, that's really what I'm doing when I'm writing eulogies, which I'm writing all the time. You're ghostwriting is what you're doing. No pun intended, by the way, whatsoever. You two have been fantastic. Thank you.
Lovely to meet you, Vicky, and Dr. Ritz. Lovely to see you again.
Thank you. It's been lovely to meet the both of you too.
Thank you for having us.
Come back.
Oh, please do.
Great responses from our listeners today. Here we go. Scotty, amazing subject, ladies. Can we get happiness on the show next time?
Do you know what? I think she'd love to be on the show. I'll ask
Well,
her.
Let's
do
book
that
her
next
in.
time.
Let's
And
book.
let's make sure there is a next time.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes, please. Thank you so much to the pair of you. Yeah, it's
Thank
always
you.
a joy. Absolute joy. You're great sports as well. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. And yeah, you can find more on our podcast on YouTube or Spotify. It's called The Therapy Floor.
Excellent.
on,
Well
is it on
done. That's
Apple
the
as
perfect.
well?
Vicky,
It's
you
on
could
Apple
learn
as
from
well.
that. Vicky,
I know.
you
Well
missed
done,
that
Ritz.
open. You missed that open goal, Vic. You missed it. Thank
did.
God for Dr. Ritz and her professional salesmanship. That's it. Bye, everybody. Right. Longie, I just loved that. That was fantastic.
It was. Right, just before we go,
Yes, okay.
good luck, Colin, who's tuned in today with his new radio show, burtonradio.co.uk. He's been a guest on this show and he went down really well. So, a bit of Colin this afternoon, 2 to 5. Quick, funny dating story on Facebook.
Okay.
One of our other guests who's been on here before, she says she was on the dating apps and she was talking to a chef. And his first question to her, this isn't a joke, this is actually true.
Right.
His first question to her was,
Yeah.
what are you cooking? What have you cooked recently?
Yeah.
And she answered meth. And he closed the conversation down. Scotty, would you like to present me on Wednesday, dude? I thought it was brilliant. I thought you'd appreciate that.
Now, your pal, Colin, well, we've got you because I haven't seen you for since God was in short trousers. He keeps emailing me and I keep saying yes, and then I don't hear from him again. So I'm sure.
Yes. I said I'd give you a nudge today when I saw you, so I'm giving you an official nudge.
Well, I've said yes to him. I wrote back immediately and said, fine, lovely, great.
Colin, sort it
Cool.
out. It's a yes.
Yeah, you have. Okay.
I'll see you
Righty-ho.
Wednesday. Scotty, if you'd like to present with me, hit me up on the socials. Let me know. I'd love to work with you on Wednesday.
That's fantastic. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining. Weren't they great guests? We love them.
Fantastic.
Thanks
guests.
for
Great
watching all over the
conversation.
world. Till then, bye-bye, Neil.
Good afternoon. Love you, man.
Good afternoon. Love you.